Welcome back to the A3 podcast. This week we've got a very controversial episode ahead of us. My name is Alex Catalano and I'm joined by Alex Miller.
Afternoon, how are we?
Not too shabby. And Alex Doherty.
Hello everyone, how are y'all going today?
Oh yeah?
Oh yeah. Obviously the biggest controversy of this whole week has been Daniel Menzel being delisted by the Cats. Obviously nothing else as big or eventful has happened.
I see that smile on your face. You're absolutely loving this.
I'm trying to be as impartial as possible to this delisting.
I am distressed.
But this is the, we're still sort of in the trade period in a way, in that the delisted free agents can still be signed. AFL contracts expire. All the ones that are out of contract need to be done by the 31st. And if you don't have one by that point, you're a delisted player. And so they'll get picked up or basically go down to the seconds at some point, really. So we've got a few players we wanted to run through. Obviously, Daniel Menzel, I mentioned the Cats delisted him. Obviously, we've got a very personal relationship with Daniel. What do we reckon? Do we reckon anyone's going to pick him up?
Oh, you'd have to think so. He's kicked 104 goals in 52 games.
The stat that these boys keep throwing at me is Menzel's 2 goals a game.
Because he's a forward and he's a goal kicker. And I don't... all this rubbish about he's lazy and stuff, which is true, but he's a proven forward goal kicker, clinical finisher, and especially Geelong as well. You think like Tom Hawkins is the goal kicking option, and then who's their second major threat? Who's going to kick?
Asava Radaglia.
Yeah.
Who's still very young.
There you go. So there's a big gap. He's still 27. I feel like he's on the wrong side of 30. He's got a lot to offer, and I think he'll definitely go somewhere. A rebuilding club could snatch him up in no time.
Well, they don't have Jordan Murdoch. I think he was cut as well.
Yeah.
And Lincoln McCarthy's out. So there's a lot of players on the out at Geelong.
Thurlow to the Swans.
To the Swans.
I don't mind that at all.
It's actually weird because I read an article this morning before I came here, and I think it was Menzel's manager that
Rammer.
Yeah, Rammer went on the record to say the stats don't. He acknowledged why the stats didn't look great, but it was because Menzel played a role that didn't really
entail everything.
Yeah, entail what a pressure forward does.
Yeah, I read that this morning. Yeah, basically, Ramanauskas was saying that the way that Geelong played him was to keep him out of contests and kind of stay on the outside, which probably doesn't suit the kind of player that Menzel is. You want him to try and get in there and tackle and do the kind of things that your small forwards do.
And mark. He's a marking forward as well.
I think it's just every forward now. Like they have to at least try and pressure and harass defenders to try and cause a turnover. And Daniel Menzel can't really do that because he's not playing the role that is required to do that. Like if he's playing one of the deeper options up forward, or playing like on the opposite side of the pocket, say there's a stoppage in one pocket, he's on the other side. It's almost impossible to actually do anything like that. Yeah. So, like, it's a bit harsh to call him out for being lazy because the stats don't look great, but he's still, like, as you said before, 104 goals in 53 games. The man can kick a goal, and there are teams out there
goal kickers
that are crying out for genuine goal kickers.
Consistent as well, clinical finishers.
Like I know my Bulldogs are searching for forwards because half of them can't even hit the side of the bun, and they're going for the big sticks. They end up kicking them out in the full.
I've got a question for you, Catalano. Doc just talked about pressure forwards, how everyone sort of has to do something. Do you think, though, that Menzel's sort of a prime example? You can have him almost as a passenger in that respect because he can kick goals. I understand where teams are sort of, hypothetically, let's use Tom Hawkins, for example. Let's say he's not like a pressure forward. But he does some good work. But let's say he's not kicking goals either. That's when I think people can, fire those criticism off. But Daniel Menzel, it's not like he's not bringing the heat per se, but like he still is doing his job as a forward, and their job is to kick goals. So do you think that's what teams looking at now, that we need him? We not just him. We need everyone in the front six to bring the heat.
Yeah, look, I think Menzel he's still a decent player in that regard. He can crumb and do those kind of things. But I think you look at like Richmond and the Bulldogs of 2016, which were very much based their forward lines around those smaller players having that kind of defensive pressure. And if the ball's moving out of the forward 50, you got to be able to tackle and stop it from moving.
Yeah,
A lot of criticism I saw from Geelong supporters was saying that Menzel basically means the opposition's defence is getting it out for free. You need those players to be the stoppers in the forward line.
So I get that that's now the game style that everyone wants to play, but does that mean everyone in the front six has to play exactly the same?
Well, no, not everyone, but for the player that Menzel is, I think just kicking those goals is not necessarily enough.
Yeah, okay.
He needs to be a bit more broaden his horizons if he wants to find his way on the AFL list.
Yeah, that's all I was asking, because I think it's a valid point, but I don't know.
Yeah, I think if he gets his opportunity, he can cause he can make a difference with his pressure acts and stuff like that. He kicked, I think it was 15 goals in the first 5 games this year, and that sort of stuff just should not be playing VFL football.
Yeah.
Like that
They'd be lucky to play VFL at this rate. Well, that's the thing.
Well, that's not entirely true, because apparently there's been 5 clubs that are interested in his services at the moment. But the Age is reporting that Carlton, Brisbane, and St Kilda are not in the running. So
It'll be interesting to see what plays out with that.
Bulldogs have been linked. That's been documented, and Adelaide have also been linked as well.
I think for a team like the Dogs is probably a good pickup, just because, like Doc said before, their forward line's not known for their accuracy.
No, I feel like he'd work well at Adelaide, though.
Yeah, I think he can do well at Adelaide.
But also, it's sort of...
That's a forward line that's already lacking in
pressure.
Defensive pressure.
They got a lot of tall timber down there, and Menzel's more of a medium than a small. So,
and when you also add to the fact that Eddie Betts, who is probably their best small forward at the moment, he's on the wrong side of 30.
I reckon Eddie will have a huge year.
I don't know.
I reckon he'll have a massive year.
Oh, I hope so, just for his sake, because his year this year wasn't great.
Yeah, I reckon that's why he'll have a huge one. Anyway, we're not here to talk about Eddie Betts.
So we've got a big list of free agents, not free agents, a delisted free agents in front of us. One of the ones that really stands out to me, Michael Barlow, unfortunately found himself on the wrong side of Stuart Dew's. I don't know how to describe it, so let's not say anything. But Stewie Dew's not a big fan of him.
Call it the chopping knife.
The chopping knife. Stewie Dew's not a big fan of Michael Barlow. Was playing in the NEFL, racking up 50 disposals on the regular. He thinks he's still got something to give. I think other clubs could see him as a big body just to protect the kids. Clubs like Carlton, who don't really have, aside from Cripps and Murphy, who's getting older now, probably can't play that inside role as much effectively. Barlow would be a real help to those guys.
Yeah,
I think Carlton should look at him.
Yeah. I absolutely agree. Like you mentioned Mark Murphy before, like I reckon he's probably more suited now to do what like veterans such as, like I think of Hodge and I think of
Pendlebury.
Matt Boyd, Pendlebury as well. They play half back. I think Mark Murphy can seriously do some damage playing off half back. I agree that Michael Barlow needs to be on an AFL list. I think Carlton's probably the best fit because you think Cripps is probably the only one who's got a real seasoned body. The rest of them are just still kids. Like you think Fisher, you think Petrivsky-Seaton, Dow. You're probably going to add Sam Walsh to that mix in a month's time.
It's a lot of young kids to have in your centre bounce.
That's. Yeah, they say games are won and lost in the midfield, and Carlton are just putting all their chips on young midfielders, first, second, third year.
The raw chips, they're not cooked yet. The kids are still young.
They're putting in the oven. They're putting their best. They're putting their best midfielders in as first, second, third year players. So to grab somebody like Michael Barlow, who has had a lot of good history. You know, remember when he first stepped onto the scene, he was in the running to win the Brownlow until he broke his leg. So like this man, like I reckon this man still has something to offer. And even if he's well past his prime, which I'm going to assume, which was why Stewie Dew didn't want him at the Gold Coast in the first place, I still think he has something to offer.
I think, before we move on to Billy Bob, I just want to quickly talk about Barlow. It's weird, though, because you think about the last game of the season he played, he had like 39 or something like that. Clearances, tackles, and dominated the game. And he's exactly what the Suns need. They need an experienced body, whether it's in the midfield, halfback, forward, wherever.
Yeah,
they just need mature, level-headed players that want to be there. And it's not like it doesn't sound like an attitude problem. It didn't sound like he was bad-mouthing or didn't want to play or anything. It's just like you said, Kat, I just think Stewie Dew, he must have got on the wrong side of him. And that happens, coaches are entitled to all that. But I was a bit shocked to see him go away. And I said a couple of weeks ago that Barlow actually came out and mentioned that he wanted to help out Cripps. So I think he'll be a good pickup for Carlton. And
I think they'd be silly not to take him.
I think he'll definitely go somewhere in the third, fourth round of the rookie draft, you'd think.
Well, I just before we do move on, I think there was a tweet that he sent the other week when it was deadline day in the trade period, and he tweeted, like, it was a little bit cryptic, but he said Stephen may leave the Suns, where it could say
it's a Da Vinci Code. You must go, my child.
Like whether it's like Stephen might leave the Suns, or he's promptly telling him to go, leave. I reckon
get out while you can.
I reckon Michael Barlow.
Go.
I reckon Michael Barlow has some pretty ill feelings towards Gold Coast now.
He probably does now, but I think when he was playing, he probably would.
Oh, when you throw him under the bus like that, I think it's hard to not have. Throw him under the mighty truck, the mighty chassis. He didn't deserve to be to go out that way.
But I think we all agree he'll get another chance, hopefully.
Yeah,
I hope so.
Another player that I think has been unfairly delisted is Billy Hartung, who was delisted at the end of last year by the Hawks.
Big fan of him, Carl. Yeah.
Yes, I think Billy's got a lot of run to give teams that don't really have that. Especially a team like North Melbourne, who has now just delisted him, who really needed that outside run last year, but now they've got players like Hall and Pollack. I think they've decided that Billy's not necessary.
Yeah, I was going to ask you on that quickly. Do you reckon they cut him knowing that they were definitely going to land Hall?
Yeah.
I definitely think so. Like it all makes perfect sense now, because
it's just a player upgrade at that point.
When they cut Billy Hartung, I think it was a month or so ago, and this was before Pollack was going to North and Gaff was linked strongly. Like, it was really puzzling, because I thought Billy Hartung's first half of the year was the best I've ever seen him play.
Yeah.
And the stats pretty much backed it up as well.
He seemed to finally find a way to get a clean disposal, which was probably an issue at the Hawks,
yes.
where he had all that pace. And you see this a lot in the younger players with a lot of pace. Sam Murray kind of showed that off this year as well, but they find it really easy to run and break the lines, but they can't get that disposal off.
It takes time, though.
So like, at the time, it sounded really, really puzzling, but then when you look at the fact that they bring in Pollack, they bring in Aaron Hall, and they bring in Jasper Pittard, he becomes more depth now, and
it's a bit redundant.
It makes sense.
It sounds a little harsh, redundant, but that's pretty much
it's true though.
It's pretty much it.
There are other clubs that could use that kind of outside run, though, I think, and
I can't see many though, like, going hard for him, really.
Oh, no. If you have a free pick in your rookie draft, then you might.
Well, he was taken with the last pick last year's rookie draft, so.
He was taking the last pick in the national draft.
Oh, yeah, there you go.
Whatever.
But yeah, look, if someone wants to sign him up as a delisted free agent, I suppose they could, but
I don't know.
I would be disappointed to see Hartung down in the VFL for the rest of his career. I think he's got more to give.
How old is he now?
Only about 23, I think.
Yeah, so he's got plenty to give.
He's still young.
We'll see what happens.
I'd like to see St Kilda pick up Billy Hartung, because I think their one problem is speed and outside run and carry.
Too many of the same players.
Yeah, they've got one too many, like, inside midfielders, and Jack Stephen, who I think can play outside, but I think I think they need him more as an inside player than an outside player.
Yeah. Him and Ross both, need to be
Roscoe
in the centre bounces.
Yep.
There's a few players who haven't really signed contracts yet, but we think they'll probably be staying. Jacob Townsend's one of them. Obviously, you'd hope the Tigers are talking with him to get a deal done, but there's been a lot of question marks about whether he can fit into that new forward structure with Tom Lynch there, which I think we've discussed a few times. Miller, you're the Richmond supporter here. Do you reckon he'll get a contract?
Look, I hope for his sake he does. Not just because he was a grand final hero a couple of years ago, kicking two. I think that Jacob Townsend brings something to Richmond that you could definitely say they lacked actually through the whole year, is a little bit of grunt and a bit of aggression and all those little niggles and those jumper punches and those bumps. They just get in players' heads eventually. Yeah. And, even though they're a nuisance, like, he's very clinical when he gets the ball. Proven goal kicker. The thing is, though, obviously Tom Lynch coming in, it takes a lot away from him, because Townsend's a similar player to Menzel as a marking forward.
Bit taller.
Yeah, they're not like crummers, and I think that Jacob Townsend, for me, I don't know why people say he's a tall, but I really see him as a medium. But I just don't. I can't see him gelling well with that team, with Lynch and Rewalt, sorry. But I hope they do keep him around. But it's just going to be hard to play him. But I think they should, he's only 24, 25. And, for when he came for the Giants for practically peanuts,
it's good
be worse
pick-up.
to see him go for literally nothing. Because I think he's a good player and they could get decent return on him.
Yeah, exactly. They got him for literally nothing, and he was a key cog in their premiership win last year. Look, I'd love to see Jacob Townsend play on at Richmond next year, but I think the fact is it's going to be a little bit harder. It's going to be so much harder now to see him in a side that's going to boast Tom Lynch, Jack Rewalt, Rioli, Caddy, Butler, and I know you don't like him, but Castagna plays.
I don't mind him.
Castagna plays a pretty solid role, even though he doesn't kick as many goals as say the other.
He was like the second tall last year, Castagna.
Yeah. Well, I actually thought Townsend was the second tall behind Rewalt.
Yeah.
He played tall last year.
I think Caddy will play more on the ball actually this year.
You reckon?
Yep. I think they want Lynch to kick 100 goals.
100 goals in 2019. I would be shocked if any player kicked 100 goals in 2019.
Yeah, 100 between him and Jack.
Oh, yeah. You'll get... Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a powerful forward line.
I reckon he'll probably stay for next year, but beyond
I don't know.
beyond that, I'm very uncertain whether or not he'll stay.
I do like him though. So if they're not going to guarantee him a first team opportunity, it's a bit like Miles. Like, as much as I loved Anthony Miles, I'm actually rapt that he's up at the Suns
because he'll play 22 games this year.
And he'll be a captain eventually.
I want to jump ahead a bit because looking at the time, we could go through this all day.
We could.
I want to talk about two players that have been struck down with injury through their whole careers.
Yes.
Alex Johnson and Nathan Freeman have both been delisted by their respective clubs, Sydney and the Saints. I can't really see any team taking a punt on Johnson, to be honest.
No.
I think that you look at just the poor bloke's injury history and how easily it all happened again this year, and I don't think anyone would be willing, really.
Nah,
It's a shame.
It'll be like. I don't like using the term list clogger, but he's going to be one of them.
It is a shame that obviously the Swans did keep him on for a long time and had a lot of faith in him, and wanted to make sure he got through all his rehab every time. But yeah, I guess there kind of comes a point where you look at this bloke who's 28 years old and has barely played.
Yeah.
In the past 5 years.
Yeah.
He's had ACLs. I think there was also like an infection somewhere in there as well. Like, it would be so good to see him out there playing football again, and it was a real feel-good night when he played against Collingwood.
Yeah.
But I just can't really see him playing next year. Like, he'll probably play in the local leagues, and that's probably about it.
That.
He'd be very good as a mentor, though, I think, mindset-wise for young kids that are suffering injuries, or young players, or just people in general. Like, his mental strength must be, absolutely sensational. So I think
he's been through it all.
Yeah.
I think if he decides that he physically can't play, even though because he obviously still has the passion to play, but if he physically can't, I think he'd get a sort of mentoring, coaching role somewhere at a club or a draft combine or a junior club or something like that. So I hope he gets a gig somewhere else, but I just can't see it.
Mentor at the rehab clinic.
Nathan Freeman is the other one who he's only 23, but he had not played since his draft year because he'd been injured constantly since then, and he finally got a few games at the end of the year with the Saints this year.
2.
And then he got chopped.
And then they've dropped him.
This one actually angers me a little bit.
I think Alan Richardson must be taking the piss.
You've got to be joking.
They must either
be.
be planning to redraft him as a rookie, or St Kilda Football Club is in more of a shambles than we actually thought.
Came out and declared like we're actually going to redraft him. Like
maybe they don't want the media to know that
he's been thrown to the dogs at this point.
But
he's been
But seriously, I thought I was there that night when Nathan Freeman made his debut for St Kilda, and I honestly thought that he could actually be something in this.
It's going to be one of the great stories.
He might not have been the projected top 10 pick that he was 5 years ago, but I thought that he would have somewhat of a role.
We don't even know that though, because he could have been the top 10. He's only played bloody 2 games.
Yeah, like we'll never know. Like all these,
We'll never know.
All these
what he could have been.
All these hamstring injuries have just
like
it's taken the toll on him, and I think it's probably taken, and I guarantee it'd probably take a toll on St Kilda's patience.
Yeah,
and
jeez.
And that's probably
mind you, they're the one that gave him the new contract and the pay rise. So.
Yes,
yeah.
Obviously, they had faith in him, and
well, he's repaid the faith, but he can't repay it if he's bloody delisted. What are you supposed to do then?
So
I just don't get it. I just really I don't know. There's so much potential, and I think he could.
I think he could go on any list.
He's
really.
got some run. He's got a lot of football ahead of him if he stays fit, which he has proven on the back end of this year. So I think, God, I'd take a punt with him, no worries. But I think, he'll definitely play somewhere else.
Yeah, I reckon if he's not on a rookie list for next year, I'll spew up.
He's 23.
Yeah, he's young. You never know. Maybe he asked for a massive contract, and then they were like, "No,
surely
not
not.
happening."
Surely not." Like
he already asked for a pay rise when he went from Collingwood and got that somehow.
Because the Saints were desperate for players.
Why would you give anyone a pay rise if they've never played no AFL game?
Jeez, I tell you what, Collingwood supporters be laughing at him now.
Like, yep. What did they get for him?
I think
really low compensation.
I think they ended up getting like a second rounder or something.
Yeah, that's. I mean, not fantastic, but that's better than nothing.
Yeah, true.
I'd like it if you could find what that second round pick turned into, Doc. Out of curiosity.
Yeah, I'm already on it, boys.
One more player that I think could probably get picked up, another Saints boy, Mav Weller. Recently got delisted, and obviously his brother Lockie is up there at the Gold Coast on the on the lovely coast of Queensland.
Yep.
Do we reckon they'll pick up Weller? Give us a little bit of a little family relation going on. The boys are from Queensland. Obviously, they're
definitely. I didn't know that. I think he'll definitely be up there just because it'll be good. It'll probably lock Lockie up. I think he's obviously happy to be there. Weller, Lockie. But I think bringing his brother up there would really, like you said, bring that nice family secure element. And if they're up from the Suns, I think there'd be no reason why not. Because I think Mav's a capable-ish player. Can go forward, midfield.
Just didn't really get his chances this year.
Nah, strong body little guy. So I think he'd be a good fit for the Suns. Almost replacing Matera that left a couple of years ago.
Yeah,
I think he'd be a good fit.
I'd like to see Mav Weller at the Gold Coast Suns because I'd
love to see.
I reckon he'd be probably the kind of player that they're looking for at the moment because predominantly their list is full of young fellas, and have a couple of veterans in there. Mav Weller's proven to be a leader as well. He's been in St Kilda's leadership group, and at the time it sounded really puzzling because Mav Weller just didn't strike you as the kind of bloke that leads. But he is a proven leader, and he knows. And I reckon he'd be a good mentor for all the young fellas over at the Gold Coast.
Yeah, I did hear some. Sorry, Doc.
No, that's right. Go on.
Some whispers the other day as well that Hugh Goddard might be up his way to the Suns as a possible replacement for Stephen Moab because they did delist what was left of their key defenders. Obviously, Scrimshaw going. Max Spence got the chop. Sam Day will probably play centre half back or forward.
Day could play. I love Day. I think he's a very good player.
I think he'd be obviously
very underrated.
They'd like him to play forward with Peter Wright. I think that'd be a nice duo. So I think Hugh Goddard might find his way up to the Suns if he's struggling for a contract, is what I've heard.
Are there any other players that are jumping out at you boys from this list at all?
Sam Rowe, for me, boys, a bit of a shocker. Obviously, he's been through a lot on and off the field. I was just surprised to see the name, get the chop in general.
Yeah, on 99 games as well.
He's been around a fair bit, been a bit of a battler, but I think it's a shame to see him leave.
Yeah,
Carlton, because he's been a real sort of staple to that young team and that backline in general as well. The other name that stands out to me is Sam Kerridge.
Yes.
I don't know about you guys, but I actually don't mind him at all. Gets his 20-25, and he actually does a role.
Look, Kerridge is the kind of bloke who he'll get those disposals, but I don't really see him do too much else.
He's not a flashy player, Sam Kerridge, but he's the grunt.
But he's what they needed. I don't get.
And I can't even I still can't believe it was about 5 years ago. He kicked 6 goals on North Melbourne when he was still playing at Adelaide.
I can't believe it.
I cannot believe it. Oh, by the way, lads,
Yes.
Nathan Freeman was traded from Collingwood to St Kilda for a 2016 second round pick. I'm just trying to find out which pick it was.
Yeah, I'm having a look at that as well. Sam McClarty ended up as.
Was it?
I believe.
Jesus.
Sam McClarty and Rupert Wills were the 2 picks that Collingwood used for getting rid of Freeman.
Rupert
So
Wills
that's
is
kind of a lose-lose situation all around.
Rupert Wills is all right. He played a couple of games. Sam McClarty's a project player, but he's out of contract. I don't know if he'll get another gig.
Honestly, I don't think I've seen too much of Wills, but
Rupert. He's a huge boy. A lot of size. Tall midfielder, muscle.
Oh no! Oh, hang on! No! Wait!
We've got an update on this.
No, that trade pick was traded to Brisbane for James Aish.
Oh, yeah.
So
that's a bit better.
Who then? Oh, interesting.
So
James Aish
so
pretty
Collingwood got Aish out of Freeman. That's not bad. Basically, Aish and Wills.
Not bad considering Freeman was a top 10 pick and Aish was a top 10 pick.
Yeah,
and James Aish
pretty equal.
Is alive and
pretty equal all round. Look, I don't know if there's anyone else that I really think will get much of a gig. Tommy Sheridan, people.
Yeah, that was the last
about.
one I was going to mention.
No, I
about that.
I don't rate Tom Sheridan.
Doc doesn't like him.
He
just hates anyone out of Victoria.
That's not true.
Liar.
That is not true.
No.
I just think he butchers the ball a lot, Tom Sheridan, and
mind you, he's played a lot of games in a short amount of time.
Yeah, he's played a lot of games.
24, 25, he's played 83 games.
But he doesn't stand out. Like I watch a few Fremantle games, but he just doesn't. Like I just don't see him standing out.
I feel like if by the end of this trade period, if you're short a few players on your list and you need another midfielder,
you say
then
hello, Tommy.
Why not? He's probably one of the decent midfielders that's out there as a
follow me
delisted free agent.
Sorry, just before you move on, Tom Liberatore's out of contract, but
he is.
I just cannot see him going anywhere else. Like I've heard talk about Essendon trying to chat him up.
Do you mean like back to the club or like still on holiday?
No, he's back at the club.
No,
he's back at the club now.
He's just pulling his leg. Just having a
got him. No, yeah, I agree, Doc. I can't see him.
I can't see him leaving, although I don't understand why he's still out of contract.
What kind of length deal do you reckon, though? They're probably negotiating 2.
Yeah, I think from my understanding, Libba wants 2, but I think the club's going to offer him 1.
Maybe
that's a bit of lack of faith in
he's a loose
one of your favourite sons right there.
No, he's had a couple of knee injuries now, and he's in
shocking haircuts as well.
He's in the middle. He's in the middle bracket now. I think he's 25, 26 now.
Yeah, he is. He's on that.
So, it's a hard one. I'd personally say I'd probably say just do the 2. I think he's still got a lot to offer Tom Liberatore, and I reckon he'll play a huge part next year when he comes back.
Fair enough. What happens with that?
We did have a retirement during the week. Maddie Leuenberger.
Yes,
the
from the Bombers, big cheeseburger. I'll always remember Leuenberger's 2016 season where we had no other ruck options and he pretty much had to do it himself the whole year.
Mark Jamar played a couple of games.
Oh, yes, the big Russian. He actually did all right that year. For a man who came out of retirement, I thought Jamar did all right. But yeah, look,
Jesus.
Leuenberger was serviceable and we got him from the Lions.
Yeah.
He had a decent career. Probably not what he would have wanted to live up to given he was such a high pick.
Yeah.
I saw a quote during the week from, I think it was from Chris Scott when he was at Brisbane, and he said, "I'm going to tell my grandkids that I played with Matthew Leuenberger." And unfortunately didn't probably quite turn out to be that level of level of ruckman.
Would have been on the Mad Monday.
Oh, he was very highly rated in his
draft, he was. It's a shame that it just didn't kick on for him.
Couldn't reach the heights that they maybe wanted of him. Anything else to say about Louis?
No, look, I reckon he just
future endeavours on that.
Injury. I think he was one of those players where he just got crippled by injuries and we never got to really see his full potential.
What Matty could have been.
Oh yes.
I reckon for a ruckman his size, I thought he was actually quite agile in his younger days.
Yeah.
He was.
And
get around the ground.
And I think he injured himself quite a lot.
Just
I think he had
knees.
Yeah, had knees. I think
that'd be the worst thing as well as a ruckman. Well, footy players in general, but your knees are so.
Yeah, and I think there was a hamstring injury or two in there somewhere.
Yeah.
So we never really got to see his full potential, which is a bit disappointing.
What could have been?
What could have been?
But yeah,
Is this where you say Matthew Leuenberger could have been Brody Grundy?
nah,
no,
Nah,
Leuenberger is Brody.
no, it's not like
quite.
that this
Matthew
week.
Leuenberger
Not
could have been Mark Jamer.
We had a few big controversies during the week. Some interesting football news regarding Shane Mumford and Jack Watts, which has been talked about.
Oh, I see.
Sausages and swimming
Far out.
all round.
Fudge.
Look, do we reckon their careers are in a bit of jeopardy now? Particularly someone like Watts, who probably has reflected Port Adelaide's name very poorly. Koshi has spoken before about guys who, if you don't want to play football, get out. So does Watts now qualify as one of those kind of players?
Maybe. He just
Or
wants
is
to send a-
Koshi and the Power kind of hypocritical if they decide to keep him on?
I think
That is a very good question.
it's a tough one in the case of Jack Watts. I think for Shane Mumford, I think he'll be okay. I think GWS are kind of desperate now for
I
rugby.
don't know how okay he'll be after the size of that line. My goodness.
But
Gee whiz.
Oh,
no,
boy.
I think from what I've read,
That was thick.
I think from what it was a pretty massive one.
All right.
From what I've read, apparently GWS are that they're not happy with it, but I think they're still going to be okay with selecting him in the draft.
The whole club statement was talking about giving him any necessary rehabilitation and all that.
Yeah. When you consider the fact that was about 3 years ago, that video.
Yeah.
Yeah, see, that's what I didn't know. I woke up and just looked at that. I was like,
Thought it was
gee
happened
whiz,
yesterday.
Come on, is he doing that like in the draft combine? Is that what's going on
With
there?
the young
These are the new
lads
tests.
leading them astray.
I woke up and you sent me that video, and I'm like, "What the hell is this?" And I'm trying to figure out who the player was.
So anyway,
It
that's
was a
what
sausage.
I
It
didn't
was a
realize.
human
I didn't
sausage.
realize it was from 3 years ago until I was formed.
Yeah.
Yes.
For the case of Jack Watts, I think it's a little bit different. Although in the defence of Jack Watts, I've read all the texts and stuff. This looks like
Besides,
He's read them about 3 or 4 times each.
yes, and I've showed you about half. No, I think
I feel like I sent them.
no. I think this looks like it was from when he was still playing at Melbourne.
Yeah.
No, some of those are dated this
Yeah,
year, I
they're
believe.
pretty early in the
Yeah.
season.
I think
yeah. One of them was right after the showdown, I believe.
I think there
Which
was
is
one,
not a great look.
I think he mentioned his address like North Brighton, so I think there must have been a couple.
Oh,
of them.
some of it might have been
Some of them
off-season
from Melbourne,
or-
but some
yeah.
of them are.
But
local.
yes, a couple of them dated back from Melbourne.
Unfortunately, there's too many that are.
The issue with the Watts one, though, is that that's his kind of private life, and the fact that people are putting that out there is not really his fault that that's out there.
But I suppose you shouldn't be doing it.
Yeah,
in the first place, really.
no,
No.
like you
But
should.
Well, it kind of raises the question
Yeah,
of,
professional athlete in general, you just,
yeah.
just word of mouth. You don't really want to do anything that's going to get exposed whatsoever. But
That's true,
I
but
think
that-
you asked the question before, Kat. Sorry, I didn't interrupt
Yeah,
you.
it's
But
okay.
it will be interesting because, like you said, Koshi and Port Adelaide's model is if you don't want to be here to play football.
It's a very hard stance.
Yeah, so it would almost be completely hypocritical if they take a lenient view on Watts. So I think
Especially when they were, obviously Sam Powell-Pepper's thing's a whole different incident during the year. But they took a pretty hard stance on him.
he's a chum, that guy.
They dropped him for quite a few games
well,
in suspension, club suspension.
I don't know. Maybe they'll probably give the same.
Give Watts a few weeks of
Yeah,
suspension.
you'd have to.
Yeah, I
Because the AFL can't issue
Sit him
anything.
down with the club counselling and all that.
Kosh and what's Hink?
Hinkley.
Well, you
Have a chat with him.
mentioned like
Pull your head in, Jack.
if you
Get
mention
your head out of your ass.
if you mention Port Adelaide, like, if you want to play footy, play footy or get out, that hasn't really helped them, has it?
Well,
I mean, look at them; they didn't even play finals this year, and everyone reckoned they were top 4.
mate, 11-3, the ultimate choke.
Ugh.
You've been in a coma.
Oh boy.
I can't wait to see
Can't
Port
wait to
play
see
finals.
Port play finals.
Oh, jeez.
Look, I think this whole thing with Jack Watts, because it's now gone public, if it didn't go public, it would have been okay. Like now it's out. There's going to be a lot of backlash expected by Port Adelaide to.
I'm sure they'll respond though.
There's going to be a lot of memes for Big Jackie.
Oh,
There already is.
There already is.
We're loving
There
it.
already is.
We're ready for a swim today, aren't we,
While
lads?
we're on port,
While
Yes,
we're on
more positive news.
while
for
we're
the
on
Power.
swimming.
Much more positive news for the Power. Discussions went through with the Saints to lock in 3 years of China games with
So
the
is it-
Saints hosting.
does that mean the Suns aren't there anymore?
No, they're not doing it anymore.
Suns have been booted out of it.
No, I think Gold Coast just pulled out. They didn't want.
Yeah,
They didn't want
yeah.
to play in China anymore.
Probably too much of a hassle. All the young players
probably
getting them
last
over
year
there.
after travelling just about everywhere in the country.
Yeah,
They went from
very
bloody
draining, I
Perth
imagine.
to Alice Springs to back to the Olympics.
Yeah.
Commonwealth Games, sorry. And then from
Oh, yes.
God knows what's going on.
What a great period of time that was.
A home game in Perth.
Oh,
What
just
is
that.
this?
The whole start of the year was all over the place.
Oh, imagine being a Suns fan. Not
Suns.
that they have any fans, but if you they do,
Yes. I feel for the 20 Gold Coast fans that rock up to Metricon every week.
Mate,
Yeah,
Metricon's not a bad stadium, to be honest.
is
It's
there a
not
figure
bad.
on that deal that they've locked up?
I'm
was
not
it?
sure.
I know it's 3 years. I think there's somebody said that was 2 million that Port
Okay, well, that's
that Port paid St Kilda to buy their home game.
Decent.
not bad.
So, not official, but that's what I've been
That's
reading.
all right.
It's a good little chunk for the Saints. Put that towards some sort of
Player.
Don't know if that goes in the salary cap, mate.
No.
No, it'll help them out, get some advertising, marketing, and that for the China game.
Yeah.
I'm sure they'll want to. The thing is, I don't know what the attendance is like at the China game. Do you get a lot of people coming flying over? Do you get a lot of people from China? I don't really know what goes on.
Apparently
over
they
there.
get decent-ish crowds.
Yeah, I think they got about 10,000 last year.
Which isn't bad. Like, I suppose a lot of the locals would get around it. Probably would have not much.
And I guess
idea
that's
what's
what the
going
AFL wants, is spread the game internationally.
on. Far
Which,
out.
as much as that might not be a
Don't get me started.
viable endeavour at the moment.
Save that for a later week.
Okay, all right.
All right, I think we should do a winner and a loser from each of us
Yes.
of the trade period.
Yes, Doc
We'll
was very
start
keen on this before.
Yes.
Doc.
No,
Yes.
well, I did an article.
He's written a whole article about this. You can find that on adbulldogcentre.com.au.
No, just .com, mate.
Don't
Just
go
.com.
back.
Shave the .au off.
That's Australia.
Shave it off.
Shave the AU part. It's www.adbulldogcentre.com. Just have a look at it.
Yeah,
Have a squiz.
Have a squiz because there's written winners, losers, question marks.
Yeah.
Showed it with you guys and
Who's your winner then,
Yeah.
Doc?
Give us a winner. Give us a loser.
I've got 5, but I'll give you one.
Give us one, please.
Um,
I don't want 5.
I really liked Brisbane's trade period.
Yes, I'll get around that.
Like they got I know they lost Dane Beams, but Lockie Neal
Yep.
is a more than adequate replacement of Dane Beams. I think Marcus Adams, if he gets himself fit, I didn't like him leaving the Bulldogs, but if he can keep himself fit, I think he's going to be an easy walk up starting there at 22.
hope
His mighty frame will
Yeah,
be well needed down
he's
in
a
that
big
back
boy.
line.
He's a big boy, but he breaks down a lot. So there's
I
a
wish you all the best.
So I hope. No, I honestly mean that.
No,
I hope he gets himself.
Yeah, if he
fit
gets
because-
himself playing 22 games this year, I think the Lions back line is very much almost set for the
And-
years to come. Yeah.
And they got Lincoln McCarthy for pretty much next to nothing, and I think he's got a bit of potential in him. So I
Yep.
think Brisbane a big winner for
Your
my
winner? Who's your big L?
the big L.
Big losers.
GWS and Gold Coast are pretty easy, but GWS and Gold Coast are too easy. I think Sydney.
easy.
I think Sydney lost pretty badly because
Yep.
you think of it like this. They finished 7th, didn't
Yes.
they? They got knocked out by GWS in the first week of the finals.
Yeah.
They did.
Embarrassing.
When you give away Dan Hanbury, and I know I don't rate Gary Rowan and Nick Newman as much as you guys do, but
I
they-
love Nick Newman.
Newman's grouse.
but they lost them and they got Ryan Clark and Jackson Thurlow
Yeah.
when they're 22, who Thurlow breaks down a lot. Ryan Clark's still a little bit unproven, but I do like Clark's upside.
alright,
Yeah.
fine.
But they haven't really gotten anywhere. Like I know that they've got some young players on that list, but they just need. I think they needed
They
to do
needed more.
They needed to do a little bit more than get Clark and Thurlow.
I think the issue was that the Swans were recruiting for positions they don't need more players in.
Yeah.
That kind of half-backy can move up to the midfield.
It's the last thing, yeah.
Yeah, do the Swans need more of that?
No,
They've got
that's the
that
last thing
in
they need.
spades.
Yeah.
Need more key position depth is what
Yeah,
they need.
yeah.
Although
Yeah, what are they going to do when Grundy and McVeigh are gone? That's going to leave some big holes
Grundy, McVeigh, Nick Smith.
in the
I
in
think
the back line.
I think-
and Smith as well.
I think in defence of Sydney, I think they're loading up for next year's free agency.
You reckon?
I think so. If they can, like, they might get a few more retirements. Dan Hanbury's exit opens up a bit of cap space as well.
A bit.
So I
800k of a smooth cap.
A little bit.
yeah. So I think offloading Hanbury opens up a bit of their cap,
Yeah.
Okay.
and I think that's going to help them out next
You
year.
reckon that was probably the best thing that they did, though, was that cap space.
Yeah.
The players are probably a bit pretty break even, if not
Worse.
Yeah.
worse for worse for.
And I think when you add the fact that they got two second round picks for Dan Hanbury, who I think looks on the decline, I think
that's decent.
it's decent.
They've got
decent.
some assets in the draft. I think they
Yeah.
might draft well this
They
year.
they know who they're going for. They're going to get
Academy stuff, is it?
Oh,
Blakey.
Yeah, Blakey's going to go to the Swans.
Guaranteed with the picks they've got. Anyone can take him in the first round and they'll match it.
All right, lads.
Cat,
Um,
give me yours.
I was pretty high on Carlton's trade period.
Yes.
I thought they were probably my winner.
that was mine.
I knew it was going to be, so I wanted to take it first.
So I'll let you go.
McGovern for Solo, Setterfield, Newman, all fantastic pickups for the Blues. I think I've said it to the boys off air, but I think they drafted perfectly for what they needed and within pretty much the perfect age bracket. For Solo being probably the oldest one that they picked up, Setterfield's 20, McGovern's in his mid-20s, Newman's 26, and those are all kind of the players they needed, honestly. The small forward for Solo comes in for Matty Wright. Setterfield will probably play most games, and Sauce rates him really highly. Newman was exactly what the Blues needed, and I think he'll play pretty much every game and should do well off halfback with Doherty. And McGovern is just a fantastic pickup for anyone, really. He'll play every game as well.
Yeah.
So the Blues are probably my big winner for the trade period. As for the loser, Doc did say the Giants and Gold Coast before, but I think the Giants did just lose too much talent and picked up nothing in return. Where really, I don't know how you can call that a win other than the draft picks they got for Shield. They got nothing for Scully. They got a first round pick for Lob,
I think
I believe.
did.
So at least picking up those picks was probably all right, and I suppose I can probably let the Giants build further on. Next couple of years, they'll draft all right and not have to put as much cap space towards these massive players, and finally can start looking like a normal team as opposed to a team that's losing 3 players every year because they just can't fit them in the cap.
Yep.
Blues winners, Giants losers for mine. Miller, what do you got?
Best for last, boys. Nah.
Oh yeah, come on.
Winners, I'm going to go curveball. I reckon the Suns.
Ooh.
Now,
What?
hear me.
Say that again.
Now, think about it more.
Say that again.
Oh, I'll say it again. Gold Coast, right? So, you are going to lose Tom Lynch. That was guaranteed. We're going to lose Stephen May at a 95% rate.
Yeah.
They reckon he was always going to go.
Yep.
Besides that, didn't really lose much else, did they?
They lost Colin Jasny.
Yes, they lost College.
Huge loss.
But he didn't play as much as he promising was. But what the Suns got, they got a lot of picks back. They saved salary by not re-signing Lynch. You get Miles, who's going to play every week. Corey Ellis is a very promising young player.
Yep.
Jack Homsch, we've seen as a reliable defender for peanuts. They get a lot of picks. They got pick 5 from Melbourne. 6 from Melbourne. They've got pick 2 and 3. So they've got 2, 3, 6. So 3 within the top 8.
Which is very important.
Mad.
It's important to be high up in the
And I
draft this
think
year.
that they will go homegrown talent and either friends and brothers and stuff. I think they're going to go for close relations between players, if that makes sense. So
who do they get come draft night? Do they get the Coaches and Ranking, or do they get the King Twins?
I think Ranking has to go there just because he's too good to leave at 2.
Yeah.
I think unless who's got 1 again?
Carlton.
I don't know. Carlton might not take Walsh.
Nah, Carlton will take Walsh.
I think it's a lock.
Anyway, I think the Suns did really well because it was always everyone knew that they were going to lose those 2 big key pillars, and I think they've stacked well on the positions that they needed. They needed a experienced, 60, 50 game midfielder in Miles. Ellis is promising. He's going to be really good on the wing and half back.
Yeah.
I think Jack Homsch is a really good fit. He's 26, key defender that can fit well with possibly Sam Day if he plays down there or whoever gets that job. They've still got Harbrow, who I rate extremely highly.
Yes.
Yep.
Been very good for pretty much his whole time up there.
Yeah, it'd be interesting if they can get Brandon Goddard. I think that would be a good pickup. if they could.
Yeah.
So
Smack some pretzels at Metricon.
so the Suns for me,
Do they
like
even have pretzels in Queensland? Or?
they can't just have bananas. No, I don't know the Suns because I think everyone expected it was going to be horrid. They really, when you think about it, they lost 3 players and 2 of them were obviously staple points of their team for a long time. And for the big losers, I'm going to go with Port. Now,
Yeah.
I do agree with that one.
Now, Port, they got Scott Lysette, who is, for me, a very off-and-on player.
Fills the hole they need, though.
To be paying, how much is it, 600K? Or was it more
Yeah,
than
it's
that?
a decent deal.
600K over 4 years or something like that is a lot of money.
He'll step in for Ryder when he's done.
And Paddy is
But he's not
almost
done. No, I don't think he is. I think Paddy Ryder's calf or Achilles or whatever it is will be fine next season. Ryan Burton's a really good pickup. I do rate that. I do not think he's worth Chad Wingard, though.
No.
Well,
hence
Sam
why they gave the
Mays.
hundreds
Which one of you
picks.
like Sam Mays?
I like
Mays.
Mays.
Yeah, that's right. I don't.
I rate him. I think he's a good player.
He's all right. They do get pick 5 and 15, which do help them in the draft order.
Yes.
So they have 5, 15, 5, 10, 15.
So I think they'll get one of those South Australian boys.
So that's good for them because I think they knew with the draft class that there is, like you said, some local talent coming through. Then they've got a couple of future picks from North and Hawthorn and stuff. But they'd lose Wingard, Polak, who are in their best 22, and they're both in Port's weakest position, I'd say, which is their midfield.
Yeah.
They've still got Boak, but he's on the back end of his career. Brad Ebert's also, almost carked it.
Gee, that's stiff.
When I say carked it, not actually like, I mean, just like it's on the back,
his
the back
career.
end.
Brad Ebert's going to die.
Back end.
Rest in peace, Brad.
Back end of the career. You lose Jasper Pittard, who for me is huge as a All-Australian a couple of years
Kind
ago.
of fell out of favour at Port, though.
But it's just that happens to some players.
Oh, yeah.
Jack Homch, similar, played a lot of games in his first transition year from the Giants and then got nothing. But they lost 6, 23, 30, 48, 49. So
a
really,
lot of picks.
Picks-wise, they didn't lose much. But for me, it's the 2 top players there, Wingard and Pollock, are the big departures. And for me, they don't really fill that void.
Yeah.
It's not like they got more midfielders they bring in. You bring in a ruckman, which I don't think they necessarily need. Ryan Burton, who I don't know where he'll play. You'd have to say halfback, surely.
Yeah, I think he'll play halfback or
Mind you, he was a forward though, wasn't
Maybe
he?
they'll.
Maybe Hinkley will switch him up.
Him
I
and
think
Todd
Wingard's
Marshall
got
said leading
versatility.
goalkeepers. It
Could
happen.
go anywhere.
Stranger
Yeah.
things have happened.
Yeah, Charlie Dixon will break down. We'll give the leading goal kicker next year to Todd Marshall.
And the last player was Sam Mays, who I think could fill a job.
Yeah.
I think he can flourish at Port Adelaide. Sam Mays.
You never know. But anyway, those are my winners and losers, and that's all I've got to offer you.
Well, that's a good little wrap-up of the end of the trade period, I think. And that's pretty much all we've got on the agenda. Thank you for joining us once again this week. Make sure to follow us on the socials on Instagram, A3 Footy Podcast. On Facebook, we've got the A3 Footy Podcast. We're on YouTube. We're going to be on everything else very soon.
Yes. Also, apologies for last week. We are all very busy.
Yes.
We just did not have the time, but we do appreciate your patience in waiting.
Uni gets hectic at this end of the
yeah,
year.
just the uni things.
But we will be back each week next week. And like I said, November, we're planning to film, so get around that.
Yes. Mate, aren't you heading to America next week?
Look, we'll have to see what's going to happen with that.
Ooh,
Might have to come back
it's up in the air.
between Wednesday,
Fly down for the
fly in.
podcast.
It
I'm not
can't
that
be.
late. I can get on the phone. We'll see what happens.
Get on the phone.
I will be back next week.
Okay.
Okay, good.
Well, thank you for joining us. My name has been Alex Catalano.
I've been Alexander Miller.
I've been Alex Doherty.
And thank you for joining us. We'll see you next week.